All right, we are back for another RetailWire Roundtable. And this is a conversation between retail experts. And this week is about agentic commerce. It's a big topic that a lot of people are asking about, a lot are confused about. So we will get into all of that, everything from the new ChatGPT news or leaked news about checkouts within their platform, all the way to what does this mean for the future of e-commerce and even the product page. Are we going to be, optimizing for agents who are crawling the web, or optimizing for humans? So we'll get into all of that, but first we will do a round of introductions. I'm Chase Binney, CEO of RetailWire, and I'll be moderating. And we have Melissa here.
Sure. My name is Melissa Minko. I'm the Global Director of Retail Strategy for CI&T. CI&T is a digital technology specialist, and we actually design and create the engineering side of these agentic solutions, along with other composable commerce solutions as well.
And Kira?
Hey, nice to meet everyone. Venture partner at Ajax Capital, former VP and head of AI pricing at Walmart, also founder and CEO of KS New York, currently serving on multiple advisory boards, including RetailWire. So excited to be here and push this conversation forward. Scott?
Hey everybody, Scott Wingo. I am CEO of RefiBuy. We're a semi-stealth startup in this space, and I also publish a Substack and podcast called RetailGentic, where we go really deep on these topics. So excited to discuss this topic.
Arthur?
Hey everyone, Arthur Pentecost. I'm the CEO co-founder of Zenith AI. At Zenith AI, we help brand grow revenue by deploying a team of AI agents working for the e-commerce brand 24/7. I think it's going to be an exciting topic. Looking forward to it.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Mohammed Amer. I'm an adjunct professor down here at Pepperdine University in Southern California. Been in retail for a long time and have a strategy doctor company that's focused on strategy, and I'm advisor to multiple startup companies in the space.
Awesome. So we should probably start with a little bit of background. Agentic. We've all been talking about AI the last few years, and I think a lot of the original stuff was about generative AI. So agentic is kind of this new term. I think it's hard to define. I don't know if we need to get into a brawl about how to define it. But if y'all want to start kind of sharing your point of view on where are we at right now with this new, I guess, this new layer or this new phase of AI in retail, and what are you hearing out in the field?
I think we should define it really quickly, just because there is so much confusion. And I think a lot of retailers in particular have been saying that they've been rolling out agentic AI when really what they've been rolling out is generative AI. So I would just clarify really quickly that agentic AI, at least how we've been defining it at CI&T, is where a digital assistant can order products for a consumer in a category that they choose based on variables such as past purchase history or criteria that they've set for it. And it will basically kind of look out for the products that fit certain specs, whether that's the consumer has decided them themselves or the agent has decided it autonomously. But that autonomy is a key part of agentic AI, whereas generative AI is a consumer or a brand putting in a bunch of inputs and getting back out a very specific output set, basically, whether that's marketing material or product recommendations. And if anyone wants to add to that or disagree, because yeah.
I agree with it, but I would add the word of shopping. So an agentic AI can go do lots of things. Shopping is just one of them. It could do travel. It could read your email. So I like to say agentic shopping engine, just to like really kind of explain the context of what it's doing. But I generally agree with what you're saying there. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, the basic difference is the agentic AI is making decisions based on your guidelines. the Chat GPT, the what everybody is now familiar with, is just following queries string and providing some responses back, but not taking actions, not not an agent on your behalf.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's read only versus read and write capabilities.
Yeah, so for maybe dumbing it down for others, generative AI is probably like a model which creates content, images, videos, text, etc. The agents use that and act like humans. Simple. And it's the model in the recursive loop. That's it, right? Using tools in a recursive loop. So it's a tool that helps you augment human actions.
I also think there's been some confusion around, will retailers be creating them or will consumers be creating them on their own behalf? And the answer I've kind of been hearing is it could be both. It's that some retailers are already creating these agents within their shopping experiences, but in the future, we will see consumers creating their own agents that are kind of retail agnostic and can be crawling a bunch of websites for them. So there's that two-pronged opportunity in this ecosystem as well.
Yeah, so that's a good point, Melissa. I think everyone who's probably listening to this is very familiar with the phrases B2B and B2C. Soon it's going to be B to A to C. And without being more complex, what that really means is the business will have its singular agent, right? The business will probably have multiple agents, but it'll lead into a singular agent, which will communicate to each one of our personal agents. And that's how our agents will be interacting on our behalf. It's kind of like, again, I love dumbing things down, maybe because it just makes it easy for me to understand. Back in the day, we would have travel agents, and some of us are old enough, maybe I'll pretend like I'm not, but I am old enough to remember the travel agent days. And your travel agent would book a ticket for you, right? Now that travel agent will just be an agentic agent booking the trip for you with the airline or the hotel or the whatever experience provider's agent.
A lot of A to A. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that really gets us into discovery, right? How do you get discovered if agents are the ones going out looking for products or trying to fulfill a need that the consumer has? So to me, that I think the discovery becomes very, very different in this new world.
Yeah, Chase mentioned designing search engine optimization or generative AI optimization. Are you designing it for humans or are you designing it for agents? And again, I think the answer is both. I think it's really important to acknowledge that omnichannel will still be a very important term in the future of retail, and that consumers aren't only going to start shopping missions through ChatGPT or generative AI sources, nor will they only start their shopping journeys through agentic AI. I think all of these channels will exist and they'll be used for different categories or different purposes. And so it just means retailers have to get even smarter and more adept at optimizing research and discovery for every possible path to purchase.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Melissa, we often talk about what's going to change. I think it's also helpful to talk about what's not changing.
Yes.
And I think to some extent, shoppers never needed e-commerce. They needed shopping. And the mechanism of e-commerce shopping and what it was even before when we were going to the mall have always been the same. There is a shopper, there are decision levers, and there's information. When you were going to the mall, you would be driving, and on the way to the mall, see the billboards that was giving you information, or the clock was giving you information through questions. When we move on the web, the customer was still looking at ads online from Google and scrolling product page, collecting that information to make that decision. The big difference with Agentic is that the information is not being pulled by customers, I think it's being pushed. But the other concept in terms of how you get discovered and the element that are going to influence the decision-making are relatively similar. I think the concept are similar. It's the means that change a bit.
Arthur, there's a small company in Seattle that might disagree with consumers not needing e-commerce. But, I think, jokes apart, I think in the last 12 months, we talk about the complexity retailers have today. And I think in the last 12 months, there's probably the highest level of variability in the customer journey and then what leads to that conversion than we've ever had. And I think a lot of that, Trace led off talking about Search GPT, but then you have Anthropic's Claude, Perplexity has launched Comet. And what people don't also maybe realize is the big Bing index, which even though none of us on this chat or listening in probably use Bing, Bing is a very big provider in all indexing of all non-Google infrastructure, and it's huge. And a lot of that is also through the partnership with OpenAI. And I think what's really important is just getting out and testing. Like if you're a retailer, it's interesting because usually, I like to talk about sports, and usually you play a sport, whatever sport you like, you know the rules, so it's simple. I think in this early days of the wild, GEO or whatever you want to call it, kind of the rules are being developed by the ones who are starting first. So the early leaders are developing the rules, and they're going to win because over 50% of anyone's e-com traffic today is bot traffic. And it could be white bots, it could be good bots, but if you're not letting in those bots, you're not going to show up. And that could be very scary if I was a retailer or a brand. And I'll take a pause there for anyone else wants to jump in.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was meeting with a retailer and we ran an analysis for them, and we have a system that can simulate a web, an agent, like a Perplexity type agent, and they were blocking it with Cloudflare, and they didn't know they were doing it. Someone in their IT department had just said, we're going to block all these bots. And then they were kind of surprised that they were doing that. They kind of just took someone in, the MIS IT department just said bots are bad. And they didn't realize they had cut off a fair amount of traffic. So I've seen that one in the real world.
Well, to your point, I was sitting with a retailer, and then they told me that in March, their traffic jumped up over 70% relative to their digital traffic online over the holiday. And when we dug in deeper, it was all bot traffic. But today, when you have Claude, DeepSeek, Gronk, Anthropic, it goes on forever, right? You have so Perplexity, et cetera. We didn't even mention ChatGPT, Gemini. That is going to increase your traffic, and you need to be visible. Your products need to be visible by them, which also increases infra cost if you don't do it optimally.
Yeah, there's different databases too. So you've got the corpus of data that was trained on, which is not really replicated, but it's part of the knowledge of the LLM. But that's month old. Then they have a web index, and to your point, a lot of that is from Bing, but some of them have their own, and they have a mix of Bing, Brave, and their own. And then increasingly, they're opening up product catalogs and data merchant centers where you can directly upload a data feed, much like you would Google Shopping. So the retailer kind of has to be aware. A lot of them I meet aren't even aware of the last thing. They're just more worried about the training thing. And they're really worried that somehow the agent's getting their sales data or something that's not there, they can't have access to because it's like not there. So they're blocking everything because they have this fear of losing data. But you should want your product. My theory is you should want your catalog to be freely out there because that's going to enable people to find your products and get into this consideration set that's happening up at the LLM engines. So, but it's important to remember there's kind of three buckets there, and you need to think about as a retailer, how is your product getting into each of those, and are you participating in at which level?
100%. I think the way to think about this is 0-click is the new bounce rate. Before, the bounce rate, someone going and leaving was problematic. Now it's probably going to be an agent that was able to capture some of your data. And so if you want to optimize for this, you need to stop gatekeeping the data. And you can also do this in a subtle way. So even if you want to show just 10 fields that are most important to your customers on your product page, it doesn't mean there are no smart ways to still display the 150 other fields that you have in a way that may not be visible by human or may just be accessible under the fold or later down the page. And this is going to help getting that agent traffic and the new SEO, basically the new SEO for agents, whether you call it GEO, AEO, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and what retailers are seeing is their organic traffic is on a huge decline because search engines are all changing into answer engines. And this started with ChatGPT and Perplexity kind of conceptualizing this answer engine concept with, instead of showing you 10 blue links, we're just going to give you the answer. And now Google has had to react with both Gemini and AI overviews. And therefore there is this huge disparity in the SEO world between impressions and clicks. So clicks are going to zero and impressions are going up. So first of all, search used to be this bottom of the funnel click engine that was amazing. That's going away. And that's kind of scary. So a lot of this, just like one of the most effective ad mechanisms out there is basically going away very quickly. And it's creating a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt on that side. But then what I think they don't see as the other side is you need to optimize for this new world where your products are getting up there and that people are considering them. And you need to make sure that you're engaging with that and understand it.
Chase, sorry, did you want to? Okay.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, Chase, I know you wanted us to disagree because you said it makes it more interesting, but I have to 100% agree with him. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll disagree and I won't say answer engine. I'll say Google will now go from a search engine to an agent engine, but absolutely it's the same thing, answer engine. And it's not only that, I think it's even more. If you see Salesforce acquiring Informatica or ServiceNow acquiring Data World, I mean, they are moving from systems of records to systems of agents. They're going from selling productivity and efficiency to now selling results and outcomes. They can't charge for compute or storage anymore. They can now charge for outcomes and results. And I think that's going to be the future. And you're absolutely right. And, it doesn't matter if you're a consumer doing a basic grocery CPG repeat purchase, which is kind of like what we all see today with our subscriptions on Amazon, or if you're doing a complex purchase of booking a large family vacation and a holiday with hotels and flights and experiences. I would be really surprised if 18 months from now, all 6 of us on the Hollywood Square here are not using an agent to book that. I mean, I think regardless of if it's going to be high-end hotel travel or low-end repeat purchase, grocery, convenience, it's all going to be agentified. And to your point, it's going to be through the system of agents. Yep.
Maybe, go ahead.
Well, and I see that happening as well. And the question is whether what Melissa said earlier, is it going to be through a third party like ChatGPT or Perplexity, or is it going to be directly on Delta Airlines on the website where I just go in there and it books it for me? And the answer is probably both.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a mix, but I don't know, maybe here's a minor disagreement just to keep it interesting. I do think there are going to be areas where consumers just don't embrace agentic AI. And I actually think admin is perfect for agentic AI. Like flight booking, when you just want to compare a bunch of prices and you really don't care that if you're not loyal to a particular airline, you just know the time you want to arrive in the destination and your maximum price, perfect for agentic. But something a little bit more personal where it involves your style or you enjoy, let's say, shopping for fashion items, agentic can take a lot of the joy out of that. And I kind of refer to this as the Stitch Fix problem, where Stitch Fix was originally designed for fashion mavens. Well, a fashion maven doesn't want outsourcing their style choices. That's the fun of shopping for them. So, for me personally, I'm shopping for my new apartment. So I'm moving in a couple weeks, and I'm really enjoying the decor aspect of it. And I don't really want an agent taking over that whole process. That being said, for certain things like a couch, it's really tedious to constantly have to compare the dimensions of my future apartment to the type of couch that I want. So that's perfect for Agentic. I think Agentic is just great for all the admin type shopping, but it's not as great for the enjoyment type shopping that consumers will still want to do.
And to your point, Melissa, I think a lot of the enjoyment will be replaced in physical. I think, that experience will now be storytelling and all. It used to be the storytelling was done online. That's where you would communicate your voice, your purpose, and sentiment, and connect with the customer, because the sales rep in the store, and when you have so many stores, many times, or if you're a multi-brand store, you can't really communicate that. I think a lot of those experiences now will be done physically, and we're going to convert where a lot of the purchase and conversions will be done through digital agents or online. And to your question, Chase, I honestly don't think Delta cares if you're going to use ChatGPT and you're going to, with their Shopify integration, you're going to ask for a recommendation. You're going to receive a personalized, perfect flight from Delta, and you're going to complete the purchase with their buy now button. And you're going to, not get off their one chatbot, but complete that Delta purchase. Or if you're on Delta's agent and then Delta does it directly, I think the goal for Delta is not to fight the same way. A lot of brands don't mind that you buy their brand in a department store. Many times brands will even promote the department store brands. You can get better prices at a department store. They just want you to be loyal to their brand and be sticky to the brand. So I think for brands, it's just important to be found either in store, online, or through your agents.
The key piece will be the data capture, though, because that's the whole issue. Is then who will get to own the data depending on where the agent is. But I also do think that digital storefronts are still important, and that consumers will want some of that storytelling online as well. I mentioned this whole couch debacle. I was still clicking on every blue link that came up. I still wanted to own that process. And when we've done personalization research, we've asked consumers directly, if a retailer personalizes a first stop shopping page for you, how receptive are you to that? And what we heard was they feel like they're missing out. They feel like they're actually not going to see the full assortment, and they worry that they might not be exposed to an item that they would have wanted. So I do think there's going to be some consumer friction here. I know we wanted to discuss some of the challenges, and I think on the consumer side, there may be some challenges in embracing this if consumers feel they're not totally in control of the shopping experience and they're not fully privy to all the assortment they could be. So I do think there's still an element of digital storytelling that has to happen, in addition to leaning on brick and mortar to tell a story as well.
Melissa, if Fiona will like this, if you're still having trouble with that couch, use wayfair.com. You can take a photo, it could fit it in, it could show you exactly the dimensions if it fits perfectly, and it'll solve your problem real quick.
Thank you.
Did you get the couch? I'm dying to know.
I did get a couch.
Did it fit?
I will find out. I'm moving in 2 weeks. So
all right. We'll have to do a new live stream and talk about the couch.
I'll let you know. But I had to talk to the current tenant to measure the wall. And, it's decisions like this that consumers are facing every day, and Agentic won't be there just yet. But I do very much believe in the future of Agentic as a massive part of retail in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, but having it as an assistant, go work on that part. Go find, here's 6 couches, go find the dimensions. That's
perfect.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
Exactly.
I have a data point that we could kind of just do a over under on. So PayPal CEO came out and said by 2030, 25% of e-commerce will be agentic. How do you guys feel about that?
Underestimating.
Okay. Agree.
Yeah, same.
All right. So 1 over. I would say underestimating too. I think it'll probably be higher. And then one more data point, Bernstein, one of the Wall Street analysts, came out. They said they believe, so e-commerce, according to the Department of Commerce, is growing 6.8% right now. And they say Agentic is going to add in the next year 1.5 to 2.5% incremental growth in e-commerce. Over or under?
Under.
Under.
I think it's going to be higher than that.
You think it'll be higher? Okay.
I also think we need to talk about m-commerce, because every holiday season we see mobile commerce grow exponentially, and your phone is so conducive as a platform to agentic AI. So also, what does that whole channel look? I think it's going to grow m-commerce massively as well.
Yeah, I think that they're counting that in the e-commerce too.
I think they should separate it though.
Yeah. Kirat, Arthur, Mohammed, what do you think about that accelerating growth?
Well, I think IDC, I remember reading somewhere, Andy and the team there do a great job. They had mentioned by 2027, consumers will spend over $100 billion just through agentic commerce and personalized suggestions. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, I agree. And
so they're underestimating. Yeah.
You're under. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Good. Well, if we're at 6.8, and let's say you guys are right, and that's low, that 2.5 is low, and we add 3, that's like a 50% acceleration for e-commerce. That would be something we haven't seen since COVID.
And we haven't seen agentic AI before.
Yeah.
And this comes back to what we were talking about earlier. I forget. Maybe I think it was Scott who brought it up. about transforming search engines into agent engines or answer engines, and system of record software SaaS companies into system of agent companies. If you see the largest public software companies, Adobe's, Salesforce, SAP, they're everywhere between around a 200 to 350 sort of billion market cap. I think the TAM, I think the Agentic agent company has about $1 trillion market cap, an opportunity there. So I think it's really gonna. So, and that's the big push. If you hear anything Mark Benioff says, it's about Agent Force. If you're any of the leaders, they're all leaning into the data and to the agentic platforms.
How about the question of trust? So, I don't have access to the research that maybe Melissa you have, but consumers really have this ambivalence about trusting brands or trusting AI, the black box, or do they want to see the steps, the reasoning that you went through to arrive at the recommendation? So trust, transparency, to me, that's a fascinating area that we're going to need to be looking at in the relationship between consumer, retailer, and the agentic AI.
We'll be asking those questions in our
Yep.
next consumer survey.
Yeah, there's some payment startups that are trying to address this. So there's one called PayOS, and then the other one starts with N. I always have to look up how to Nakuda, something like that. And they're trying to make sure at the point of payment that there's trust between the merchant and the user on the other side of the agent and the agent in the middle. So I think this may be so then maybe this is a controversial topic. I think all this stuff, I think these agents that are kind of starting at the Gen AI and then going down to the retailer get pulled up into the Gen AI level. And that's what Chase and I have been talking about with the ChatGPT news, that they're going to host a checkout. So I think there's this natural progression where the engines started out and people were using them for information and learning, and then they started using them for commercial purposes. Shopping was one of the early data points that everyone saw, and now they're building these agentic capabilities, and they're seeing it really work, and they're going to want to monetize that. And the best way to monetize it is to have it like a marketplace in my vernacular, where retailers list product there. It can be sold up at that level and purchased up at the Gen AI level. So there could still be an agent for some inventory, but there'll be a set of inventory that lives up at the Gen AI layer, just like eBay or Amazon's third-party system. Their transaction happens up there. And that's going to be interesting because that will kind of solve the trust thing. And they could even implement little trust symbol, banners or badges, just like you see on eBay and Amazon, and guaranteed product type stuff. Do you guys see it going that way, or do you disagree with that?
Scott, I mean, it's interesting because I don't know, maybe I'm just a fool, or I'm just extra trusting. I don't know. But when I go to Kayak and I put in for a car rental or for a flight, I usually trust it, right? I mean, I think if it's a platform that I'm not familiar with, then I understand. But if it's a site, a platform that you've transacted and closed before and converted on, you trust it. And I think trust initially, to your point, Mohammed, has to be earned from the consumer. But once the trust is earned, as in my example with Kayak, you do trust it. And I think that's why Darius Amadeo at Claude, or Anthropic, I should say, has built his entire foundation on constitutional AI and trust, because they want to lead with trust. And I think when you get that, and I'm not saying everything Claude says is accurate. We know there's hallucinations. But what I'm talking about is when you trust a platform, there's a lot that you do trust, that is the best price, that is the best convenience, that is the best offer, and you close it. I don't think you always are comp shopping constantly.
But I think this might be an easier problem though, right? Because in Kayak, it's all structured data. And essentially what you're trusting is that because there's a Visa or MasterCard logo, the transaction is going to go through and you're going to be covered if something goes wrong. I think the extra layer of challenge we're seeing with the trust here is that there's a lot of unstructured data. And so if you're asking what's the best fridge, what's the most reliable fridge, you're relying on a lot of different data source unstructured, and you're relying on the LLM to be the referee. So Claude, OpenAI, and to do it in a way that aligns with what you think is a reliable fridge. And I think this is where the trust challenge is how do you go from the reviews, that was the latest block we were using for trust, like social proof reviews, to a summary, a blended mix of reviews and information and blogs that is the answer the LLM provides. So I think this trust, I'm not sure has been fully resolved yet, this trust challenge one over there.
I also think us in the industry tend to trust more than the average consumer because we know all of the hard work and effort that goes into it on behalf of brands to make it as safe and trustworthy of an experience as possible. But then there's also other variables at play. One, convenience is so crucial in terms of consumers' paths to purchase. And a lot of times what that looks like is saving mental energy. So there's almost an element of laziness, for lack of a better term, where people will just kind of end up trusting these channels because they don't want to keep doing all the work and going through the motions if they think these agents or these tools are doing it. But then there's also the factor of maybe they won't trust it, but they might still use it anyway. Like if you ask them, do they trust it? They'll probably say, no, we don't. But then are they actually still using it? Probably.
Yeah, Melissa, that what I call cognitive load is really important because we do look for shortcuts in a lot of these decisions. And then, so the other side of the trust, and I understand the kayak example, and then that extra layer of trust that we just talked about. But the, with Google, you in the Agentic world, commerce that we're talking about, there are ads, there are weights, you have to kind of pay a little more, and you're at the top, the first page. But now when the agent is doing the search for you, is the weighting influenced through some other mechanism? So that's where kind of the transparency will be required, and it will have to again be earned. As we talked about before. So trust is not something we can take for granted as a given, whether we're on the inside or as a consumer out there.
What is the closest thing to agentic that people are using right now? I mean, what's something that the average shopper would be experiencing right now?
I have people say I would never trust an agent, and I say, do you use Instacart? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, there's some random person that is out shopping for your groceries for you, and you trust them, and they're a human. Humans are much more likely to be do crazy stuff than agents, I think. But that's a personal. I'm a computer science type person, so I guess that's a personal belief.
So how about Amazon Buy For Me, the beta right now? That's
the Rufus.
Well, no, Rufus is shopping assistant. The Buy For Me, that's different. It'll give you information, but Buy For Me will actually, by clicking that, it will go through the entire transaction and collapse that funnel and go through to checkout. Rufus can't take you through the checkout.
Rufus is your AI assistant, right? Which kind of like...
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
It's another discovery tool, really. Whereas Buy For Me will, for select brands that don't want to put product on Amazon but want it to be seen there, there's a faux product detail page, and then Rufus will go to that. Buy For Me will then go to the brand site and then go through the checkout. It's really limited, so the brands have to kind of have a relationship with Amazon. Most of them are first party or third party or both, and then they have to take Amazon payment, which is it looks big because it has all the Amazon transactions going through it, but there's not that many websites that have Amazon Pay. So that's a restriction that really limits the addressable market on that one.
Google Flights, like tracking flights, is kind of the first half of the future of agentic AI, alerting you when the price is right or in a good spot. In the future of agentic AI, it would just tell you this is in your range, so I've made the purchase for you.
And then we have the Shopify and ChatGPT that are in coming soon, right? The leaked information. but that will be kind of the one that will capture the imagination of more people than these more limited examples.
Yeah, ChatGPT 5 is days away. It's going to happen in August. It's kind of like the conventional wisdom. So I'm very curious on if that's going to drop along with ChatGPT 5.
Yep.
What about Apple, the largest brand, right? Where's Apple in this agentic conversation? Are they still waiting like they did in the early days of the Palm Pilot and going to come out with the amazing iPhone later, or have they kind of lost it and they're just maybe going to snatch up Perplexity or somebody else? Or what is the roundtable think about Apple and Apple's sort of decision to sort of halt or slow down? Or
they can't grow it internally, organically. They're going to have to acquire. And until a couple of days ago, I thought Anthropic or something like that would be a good target for them. But now the
Anthropic has a lot
valuation that just skyrocketed.
Anthropic has a lot of investment from Amazon and Google, respectively.
Right.
Amazon more. It would be really tough to convince that board to go to Apple,
Yes.
from my limited knowledge. But
they need to make a bold move.
Yeah, they're looking at investing. I think one frame that Apple has is on the trust. They deployed a few open source models that can run locally on your phone. And I think this can be a very strong play because that means you can run your agents, you can run some automation, some AI on your phone without it leaving your phone. And that means you keep your data, and it plays along pretty well with the entire strategic positioning of Apple on privacy and being super strong on privacy. And so they could be like the most private company deploying AI for you on the phone that we all already use. So I think they have a good positioning, but you're right that they're looking to increase their workforce to be able to deliver on these promises.
That's a brilliant point. I would underline and circle that Apple wins when it comes to trust. I mean, how many passwords do we all have stored with them, and passwords to retailer sites as is? So there's a dot connection there that's super easy.
But is that any less, Melissa, than Google? I mean, for me, I think I have more with Google because I know a lot of people like me who are on the Google Android system. Mm-hmm. More people are on Apple's iOS, I agree. But I don't know anyone who's not on Gmail. If you're on Hotmail, I'm sorry, but I don't know anyone on Gmail. So I think and I don't know anyone who's not using Chrome. I think Comet's a little bit early. I don't know who uses Bing, but good luck. So at this point, I would argue maybe Google. I mean, with the search, with the email, and the browser, and some people with their phones. And by the way, there are more Androids in the world than iPhones.
Sure.
Right.
I think Apple just has I'll call it a lock on trust and privacy issue.
Exactly.
That's kind of their mark. So maybe Apple will go the direction of one of the things that Melissa mentioned at the top of the show here discussion is the consumer agents. Maybe that will be their direction versus from a retailer perspective or a platform. It will be your personal agent, and Apple will become the default for that.
I also think that question about which brand do consumers associate, it comes down to philosophically, which brand do consumers associate more with trust? And I think even though we may all be trusting Google more implicitly with our data and our information, to Mohammed's point, I think when we actually think about a brand that's synonymous with trust from like a positioning perspective, if you do a marketing exercise, it's Apple. So I think it's theory versus practice. If you look at how many passwords we actually have stored with Google, we probably are placing our lives in Google's hands more often than we are Apple's. But if we think about a brand that has marketed and sold itself more in attachment to this idea of trust, I would probably say it's Apple at this point.
You're absolutely right, Melissa. And I think the reason is because Apple has positioned themselves as a lifestyle brand, whereas Google has positioned themselves like Microsoft as a technology provider and a solution. So I think there's a big stark difference there, and that's the reason why. But when you get down to the crux of it, probably Google knows us better than, I don't know. I'm not really on Instagram that much. I don't have TikTok, but I think Google knows us really well. So I guess that answers that point about Apple. What does the team here think about Tesla's new diner, right? They've got AI agents that are robots that are there serving up burgers and coffee. And has anyone been to LA to visit?
Novelty. Generate headlines, but does it have legs? I'm not sure.
I think
Well, has legs, but this does tie into kind of a closing thoughts as we get close to the end. But as we look toward the future, even the next 6 to 12 months, I wanted to know what you all thought of what should retailers be thinking of and in preparing for, and kind of like who's championing this at retailers. What should they be thinking about the next 6 to 12 months?
I think this is important enough. You should take a page out of the Walmart book where they just created 2 new EVPs that are going to be AI focused. I think it's that important, and there needs to be a holistic review of the whole org. And I think part of it is external facing. So how are you going to take AI as an external facing element as you navigate this world that's changing with go to market? And then I think the other side is internal, because we haven't talked about it, but they announced 4 big initiatives. One of them is customer facing. The other one's associates, supply chain, and customer service, which I guess is forward facing, but really more internally optimizing customer service. So, that feels like 75% of the effort is, internal, and 25% is external. And I think that's probably right for right now, because there's going to be so much benefit from using these agents internally to improve your just make your workforce way more efficient and hire less and that kind of thing, that they need to take a double-edged look at it, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But unfortunately, I don't think a lot of the other retailers and brands have the balance sheet of Walmart to throw capital at it like that, like Walmart can. When I was at Walmart, we were hiring more engineers than Google. So yes, it's nice to create the departments, but sometimes I always feel it's better to rely on the experts who have the experience. And the few advice I would give is rely on the experts. There's companies out there like Botify that can make sure your products are found, maximize your crawling budgets. There are companies like ClueTracks that use AI and generative AI to differentiate yourself and give you powerful action-based tools to separate yourself. And then at the end of the day, look, skate to where the puck is going. The cost of tokens, the cost of computes have come down tremendously since even Q1 of this year. So if you're building something, don't build it for today, build it for the future. Future-proof your digital interface and ensure that the interactions with both the bots, the white bots, and the agents are a success. Don't block them. So those would be sort of my little tools.
So for me, we all agree agentic commerce is here, it's happening, and whether retailers are ready or not, it's not really whether to participate, it's whether they want to be a platform or a product. And most retailers are choosing to be products without realizing it. They need to focus less on building agents and more on being agent friendly through excellence algorithms, that they can't be ignored, and getting their product catalogs in order and enriched so they are discoverable.
I would say 2 things. One, we didn't really talk about abandoned shopping carts, but I think agentic AI is going to be a huge solution for retailers when it comes to abandoned shopping carts. Those agents on behalf of retailers can nudge a consumer far better and make that purchase and say, not only did you forget it, but I'm positive you wanted to buy it. So there's that piece that I think is really important to be thinking about. But also we had a question in the chat that I think is a really important one that was about curiosity on how Agentic will transform physical shopping experiences. And the one thing I would say there is, I think we can expect I'll walk in to Walgreens and just say, hey, my agent ordered this for me. I'm coming to physically grab it. Like that might be, if it's faster that day for me to just walk over to the store and pick it up, this could be the new buy online, pick up in store. So brick and mortar needs to be kind of prepared as a fulfillment platform in that way, is one implication, I think.
Yeah, online, I think I agree with what everybody shared. What I would add is from internal perspective, how to get ready for AI. I think like everyone should just read the memo from Toby's Shopify CEO, and that covers most of it, I think, in my opinion. And I think from the core topic of today, I think the focus should be on flexibility, how to create a flexible machine that can adapt to the new rules. And we don't really know what the new rules are going to be for the next 5 years. We know they're going to keep on changing. So I think I would encourage everyone to be flexible on this. And just to give one practical example, if you don't know how your company is coming out in terms of trust on the LLMs right now, just go ask, what do you think about my company? And give me sources. And the sources that are going to come out about your company are probably the first thing you should try to create content for the next 3 to 6 months, because these are, you already need, or these are in the scopes of the LLMs. These are going to be seen by customers. So it's probably a good place to start from and keep on building as these rules evolve.
Well said. Thank you all for being here and for sharing your thoughts. I know this is a conversation that could be a 2-part, 3-part, 4-part. Probably should be a monthly topic for us, especially as things evolve. Because like a lot of you said, it's the Wild West. We need to be flexible and really keep our ears open, listening to those who are maybe leading ahead of us, but also just tuning into what consumers are saying, because that's kind of the ultimate gauge for what's going to happen, is if consumers will use it and adapt. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to end the stream, and we'll see everybody on the next RetailWire Roundtable.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.